All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming tonight. This is going to be one of our webinar series. Specifically, we are looking at moving to Ann Arbor and really the Midwest in general as well. So we're going to have some information specifically about Ann Arbor. We're also going to just have some basics about Midwest living. Um, and as all of our webinars have gone, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute and ask. Otherwise, throw them into the chat and we'll be happy to answer them either way. All right, here we go.
Hi, everybody. I'll get us started with some introductions. Emma is not able to join us, but my name is Brett Cohen. I use he, him pronouns. I am a dual master's student in the School of Social Work and in higher education. I moved to Ann Arbor from Chicago.
Hi, everyone. You've already heard my voice, but my name is Kohler Olszewski. I'm a global pathway student in the MSW program. I'm in the advanced standing track, which means I have 10 days left until I graduate. We are officially on the final countdown. And so I'm happy to be here tonight. And I am moved here about a year ago from Stevens Point, Wisconsin.
Hi, my name is Kaylee. I'm on the interpersonal practice pathway. I'm also graduating in about 10 days. Exciting. I moved here from Clear Lake, Iowa.
All right, so tonight for our agenda, we're going to go over some housing and the cost of living. We're going to touch on some transportation, both public and where to park your car, which leads really nicely to our next point, which is, of course, parking around campus and Ann Arbor in general. We're going to touch about the weather in Ann Arbor, and then we'll kind of broaden that a little bit just to the weather in the Midwest. We're going to talk about the community of Ann Arbor. Maybe that's going to be including the university community, but also just the community at large. We'll talk about grocery stores or like where to find food in Ann Arbor, and then just additional resources. And then, of course, we'll have questions, time for more questions at the end.
I can get us started with talking about housing and the cost of living. We did present a housing webinar earlier on in the summer, so if you ever wanted to review that, you can find that on the events page on our School of Social Work website. Or if you have additional questions about it, you can reach out to myself, Kohler, or Kaylee, and we can provide that information for you. But just to give kind of a brief overview of the housing options, there are university housing options that are specific for graduate students. So those include Munger graduate housing and Northwood apartments. With Munger graduate housing, it's suite style living. So you do still have a personal bedroom and bathroom, but then you have a shared living space with about 6 other roommates. In that shared living space, it's definitely large enough to accommodate everyone. For example, your kitchens come with 2 of each appliance, so 2 fridges, 2 sinks, so enough space there. And then the other option is Northwood apartments. That's usually single family homes or couples in an apartment. That's more on North Campus, hence the name Northwood. And yeah, again, more so like an apartment setup. Additional options for university housing is the Martha Cook building is a women's housing option. It's actually right near the School of Social Work and has a beautiful garden outside of it. There's also co-op options. So cooperative housing options look like a house with multiple roommates where you share responsibilities and chores with everyone. Some of them might have certain affinity group relations, so trying to patch you up with people who have similar interests, or other ones it's just different locations and stuff like that. So those are some options that you can explore. When you receive this slide deck, each of those options does come with a link. If you are looking into off-campus apartments, there's also a lot of great resources through the university. The Dean of Students office offers off-campus housing assistance through their Beyond the Diag program. And with the Beyond the Diag program, it can offer you a bunch of different resources, from knowing what apartment companies to look through, to understanding lease agreements even, or even to helping you find roommates. So there are roommate finding tools on both Beyond the Diag. There's also a roommate finding tool on the School of Social Work's intranet. So if you wanted to match up with a social work student specifically as your roommate, you could go that route. If you're open to living with people who are outside of the School of Social Work, Beyond the Diag housing room, the roommate finder is a really good tool. I used that when I first came to Ann Arbor, and in my first year, I lived with a law student. We got along really well, and we had pretty good understanding of, how each of us would be as a roommate from the profiles that we filled out. And then we were able to reach out to each other to determine if we wanted to live together. And from there, we just used like apartments.com, Zillow, renters, those standard type of websites to determine where we were going to find housing. I will add in the caveat that for anybody who has yet to find housing, I definitely would encourage you to reach out to whichever source you are planning on going through. So if it's university housing, reaching out to them. I know that they are still getting back to people about if you've been selected for housing or not. And if you are looking into off-campus apartments, you can reach out to Beyond the Diag for further assistance. Or if you have any questions for us, again, feel free to reach out. We'll be providing our emails at the end of the presentation. But if you are a student who is in that situation of still figuring out your housing, we would definitely want to help you figure that out before you move forward.
All right, I can do some transportation. So we've got a few different options in Ann Arbor. So we've got V-Ride, it's Ann Arbor's public transportation system. You can use your M card and get onto those bus routes for free. We also have the M-Ride, which is U of M specific. The U of M specific transportation bus. Obviously, U of M students ride for free. Just get on and you're good. You can also do the park and ride option, which is super nice, super easy. You just park in one of those park and ride little lots that they have around, and a bus comes and picks you up and brings you to campus. So like there's one I know that one of our coworkers uses, because she comes from Ypsilanti. So she uses one, she hops on a bus, and then she comes to campus. And then there's also the question of, do I need to bring my own car? That's really based on your own needs, your own preferences. If you're going to have a field placement outside of Ann Arbor, I definitely recommend having a car, but you can also select in your little field placement option that you don't have a car, and to try and get an option in Ann Arbor that you can get to from a bus. A lot of students choose to get around just by walking, biking, using the transportation system, and if you plan to live close to campus, you can definitely get around without having a car. Even if you live off campus, you can get around without a car as long as you're in the Ann Arbor area because of the bus routes. But it definitely gives you a increase in ability to travel for fields. So you'll have more limited of a selection if you do not have a car, but definitely recommend thinking about what your own needs and preferences are for that.
All right, and that leads us to housing here. And I just wanted to hop in. So I see that there might be some questions quick about the bus routes. So one of them is, I have not found the bus route map schedule that is easy to understand. Could anyone share a resource that could clearly show that? Are there any apps that track both the ride or M-Ride? I think that one, the answer is yes. I don't use the bus system, but I do think that there is an app. So
I'll chime in and say, it's just for my transparency of how I track upcoming rides. I honestly have found a lot of luck with Google Maps on the accuracy of when the buses are scheduled to arrive. And I found that at least the bus that I take is very consistent. It's meant to arrive like at every 10 minutes on the 2, if that makes sense. So like 8:02, 8:12, 8:22, and it truly sticks to that. So there are times where I don't even need to like track it because it's been very consistent for me. As far as the maps, I have just pulled up like the option through theride.org, their maps and schedule. I'm not sure if this is something you've looked at before and if it was still not the best, but this is at least what they are presenting as what you would want to see for their maps and schedules. And then this is where you could also find the app.
So, all right, we'll keep going on with parking then. So with parking, there is campus lots. You can find the campus lots located just around the university. Please make sure that you do pay attention to the signs. U of M uses a color-coded system for their lots, and just depending on the parking pass that you would have to, that you can purchase, depends on which lots you can park in. So for example, with MSW students or graduate level students, you are able to get the yellow like the yellow student pass with after hours. That allows me to park in the yellow lots and then also allows me to stay there after hours. I do want to say that depending on your need, they can accommodate certain things with moving you up to different passes or, you know, providing different accommodations, but that would be discussed with parking services. Additionally, there is public parking around the area. You can check out the links below. First thing one, the parking pass information is there. There is transportation and parking. There's a few different parking structures around the area that, like by the School of Social Work. One of them you do have to pay for because it is public parking. And the other one I think is actually strictly reserved parking. So that one you aren't able to park in until after business hours. Then additionally, there is parking options that are free. Some of them are just in the surrounding neighborhood areas. So you might have to park a little bit further from campus where that street parking is free. And then just walking in. I have a few colleagues that do that, and it's about a 10-minute walk into campus. And the campus parking lots are also about a 10-minute walk into campus, but neither of them are that bad. So I do also want to add that Ann Arbor has a city ordinance that I think parking is only allowed for 48 hours in a single spot. So make sure that if you are parking on campus and you're not moving your car, you are moving it every 48 hours because they keep track of that. So yeah.
Now for the comments about weather. So you heard us in our introductions at the beginning. The three of us are all from Midwestern states. So as far as weather in the Midwest goes, we were pretty used to it. I think like the major highlights are you are going to see all 4 seasons. Sometimes you might experience what feels like all 4 seasons in the span of a week because it varies that frequently. You might not always be able to trust your weather app. At least the one that I use definitely is not always accurate. So plan for different possibilities. Even if you know that it's for sure going to be super hot outside, you might still want to bring an extra layer for when you get to a building, because sometimes on campus, the buildings really try hard to offset the heat. Specifically, the School of Social Work lately has been blasting the AC, which is great unless you're not prepared for the chill. So layers is the answer always. If you have not experienced the extreme temperature or extreme weather events before, such as lots of rain or even snow, you'll definitely want to start looking into investing in proper gear for that. I'm not somebody who ever has owned rain boots before, but I am starting to regret it because I'm tired of my gym shoes getting sopping wet every time it rains on me. So that's something that I'm looking into. But then also when it comes to winter, making sure you've got a a nice, reliable winter coat and some good boots. If you're going to be driving in the winter, also making sure that you've got a good ice scraper for your windows, as well as a brush for getting any snow off. But yeah, so just walking through each of the seasons. We're in summer right now. It is warm and humid, and especially this week, the heat has been more up there, but it also varies. And again, throughout the day, you might be experiencing different temperatures. When I walked to work this morning, it was totally comfortable to have my pants on. And then as soon as I was walking back at 5 o'clock when the heat was totally up there, boy, was I sweating. So just having the preparation. Normally I usually pack a pair of shorts, and today I forgot and I was regretting. Winters on the polar opposite, they are quite cold. Temperatures do tend to drop below freezing, and then there is snowfall. For the person who put it in the chat, yes, you're correct. Our air quality this summer has been affected by the wildfires, and so that's something to keep in mind as well. If you ever need access to a KN95 mask, we do have those stocked in the Office of Student Services to be able to walk around with in events of other air quality issues, or of course, if there's situations of COVID or other illnesses. So going back to winters though, the thing I wanted to say about snowfall, in the past few years, snowfall really hasn't been as bad as it can be in the past. If it's something that's brand new to you, honestly, it's really pretty the first time it happens. And say what's been nice is, like, at least my perspective, it goes away fairly quickly. So it might be like 1 or 2 days of having to trudge through the snow, and then it'll kind of melt away and you're not having to deal with snow as much. But that being said, it is still very cold. We also do run into icy conditions. So making sure that you're careful while you're walking, that's another reason why a good pair of boots with some good treading on them would definitely be recommended. But then the two beautiful seasons, spring and fall, they are gorgeous here. Fall especially is just the best. If you're coming in for the start of the fall semester, you are in for a treat. It's gorgeous when all the leaves change. The weather is perfect for like a cardigan or just nice flannel. And then you get the football Saturdays mixed into it. So it's just good vibes all around. Spring definitely does have a bit of rain. If you ever heard the saying, April showers bring May flowers, definitely true in the Midwest. But still, temperatures wise, very nice, very enjoyable to see. So yeah, I think that covers it from my perspective. Kohler or Kaylee, anything to add about weather? Or people in the chat?
I wanted to hop in and just say, because I think you mentioned maybe, but I wasn't sure. During the winter here, we don't get a lot of sunlight. Because we have like lake effect, and it's always a fun time. So it's really kind of cloudy and gray in the winter. So if you are someone that does need the sunlight, I know that there are a few solar lamps around campus. I know in Munger they have a few in the basement, but that's something that if you are used to a lot of sunlight, you'll have to kind of be prepared for just a lot of cloudy days in the winter. So yeah. I can hop in and do community quick. So community is in Ann Arbor, and just the university is really good. So the University of Michigan is really known for their vibrant community. It is very much a lively college campus. So there's going to be activities going on all the time. The diag during the busy parts of the school year are hustle and bustle, which is the diag is the long like walkway, I guess, that cuts through the university. That's the way I would describe it, I guess. But it is a very thriving community. There are students all over the place. When the undergrad students set in, you can definitely tell just because campus becomes just full of life. And a lot of there's a lot of places in town that will close during the summer and then open up during the school year. And so you'll get a few more coffee shops, you'll get a few more just shops that'll pop up, which is great. Beyond the university, though, Ann Arbor is a beautiful town, and I have really come to love it. Ann Arbor is full of art and culture and just lots of really just good times. If you have the chance to, definitely walk downtown and explore the shops. Downtown Ann Arbor is beautiful, and it comes with just a whole different array of places, from little restaurants to cafes to shops to like the farmers market in Carytown that goes all summer and then through the winter as well, or like the artisan market on Sundays. And then while you're here, if you're here for the summer months, additionally, Ann Arbor has a plethora of like summer activities. They're just setting up for art fair out on the street, and like I think 3 or 4 streets are just blocked off completely and full of tents with art in them. Right before this, I know they had their like summer fest or top of the park, which was live music for I think like a few weeks. So it was a really fun experience. But really, Ann Arbor is a very welcoming community, and I come from Stevens Point, which is a small town in Wisconsin. When I first got here, Ann Arbor was huge to me, but now that I've been here for a year, it's very small. And I know, Brett, I'll let you speak to this, but it's kind of the opposite for you. So, yeah.
Yeah, we always love being able to share how it's kind of like the perfect middle ground for our two vibes. As I mentioned, came from Chicago right before I moved to Ann Arbor. And to me, it's still got enough going on to keep me entertained, like in Chicago, all those things that Kohler was mentioning. I loved the street fest in Chicago. So seeing them set up for this art fest, I'm like so excited to be able to walk around in it. All of the top of the park events going on, as well as during the school year when it's again football Saturdays, and everything like that. So definitely enough going on. There's still new restaurants that I'm trying. I will expose myself and say that I was kind of searching for what I was going to eat for dinner after this. So I'm excited to try out another new place. And I see a note in the chat, is there a website with all these events in Ann Arbor, or is it more just word of mouth? I definitely would imagine their Parks and Rec website. Or you put something in the chat, it looks like.
Yeah, it's just it's the Ann Arbor website. There's things to do, restaurants, talks about the University of Michigan and events that are going on. So I just look there sometimes, or Facebook.
That's awesome. I didn't even know about this, so I appreciate it. Oh, Kohler, did you want to answer the other chat?
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Your website.
Specifically the I've never lived anywhere as big.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes. So it says I've never lived anywhere as big as Ann Arbor or a school as big as Michigan. Any tips for not being overwhelmed by all of it? The first thing I would say is that like kind of explore Ann Arbor. When I first got here, I was intimidated by the size, but the instant I started to explore it, Ann Arbor really started to shrink in like a good way for me. Because yeah, it's Ann Arbor, when you first move as like a small town, it feels just as big as Chicago or Detroit. But then once you explore it, you're like, wait a second, this really is just like a nice small town with a giant college, like a giant university in it. And so any tips? Yeah, just explore the city. Be open to kind of, I would say like be open to living somewhere a little bit bigger. It can be scary and it can be an adjustment, but yeah, I don't know how else to say it, but yeah, that my biggest tip is just to explore the city. So yeah.
All right, groceries. We love groceries. Okay, so I don't know much about the maize and blue cupboard, so if someone could hop in on that, that'd be great.
I'll talk about it. So yeah, the Maize and Blue Cupboard is run by the university. It's an option for food insecure students and community members. where it is a community pantry. So the food items there are donated. It's located on campus, not too far from the Michigan Union and across the street from the Student Activities Building. And it has certain hours in the afternoon when it's available. And so, yeah, you can utilize it as a student at any point you need. And even if you aren't in a situation where you're food insecure, but still just would prefer not to spend as much money on groceries or stuff like that, you can still utilize it. So yeah, they have a website too, which is linked.
Great, thank you. But there's also the Ann Arbor Farmers Market that is held at the Carytown Market. It is wonderful. I love it. Y'all should check it out. It's on Saturdays all year long. So winter, summer, spring, fall, all year. And then in the summer, it's also open on Wednesdays. So summer, you get it twice a week. Every other time you get it once a week. It's great. But there's also grocery stores like Kroger and Meijer, which, I mean, if you're from the Midwest, that's like Hy-Vee and Fairway. If you're not, you should know what they are. So then there's also Aldi, which is a cheaper alternative, and Walmart, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's. And then there's also those specialty grocery stores, which are really cool. There's the Galleria Asian Market, and it has just a bunch of Asian foods in there that you can just look at and try, and highly recommend. I'm unsure what the Patel Brothers and Bombay Grocers have. I know Kohler knows a little more about that.
Yeah, I can hop in. So the Patel Brothers and Bombay are just an example of some like Indian grocery stores that are fabulous in the area. I thought one of them also served food, but I may be mistaken and I might be thinking of somewhere else. But so those are just a good example of that. And then the last one, of course, is the People's Co-op. I'm a huge fan of co-ops. I come from a city with a big co-op in it. So co-ops are, of course, just a little bit more expensive, but all of the money in the People's Co-op goes back to the farmers or the vendors that are at that, in the co-op. So it would be going directly to them if you're someone who is interested in becoming a member there. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to hop in to talk about additional resources. For one of the additional resources, international students, we do have a fantastic international center on campus. You don't have to be an international student to go visit them. I do encourage people to still check them out and talk to them. They can really, open your mind to all of the different perspectives and worldly views. But if you are somebody who is an international student, they are especially helpful in bring a lot of different needs and logistics from finding assistance with immigration and visa issues, cultural adjustment, and orientation to campus and the local community. If you're an international student, I'll also add that there is a separate day during orientation week for you to meet with the school and also the International Center and get more information from there. So you'll become acclimated kind of from the start. There's also on campus a University of Michigan Health Services. All students are welcome to use the health services. You do not need to be part of the school health insurance in order to utilize it. And you can go there for any primary care physician needs. I set up my primary care physician through the University Health Services. She is fantastic. I do recommend that you schedule your next appointment as you're leaving if it makes sense to do, because otherwise there can be some longer wait times. The other thing I'll say is that they offer a 24-hour nurse line. So if there's more of an emergency situation, not one that would require the hospital, because obviously in those emergency situations, we encourage you to go to the hospital if you need it. But if it's something where it's like you're just having an ailment and don't want to have to bother scheduling an appointment, the 24-hour nurse line is also an option. For the question in the chat, can we use out-of-state health insurance to use the University of Michigan Health Services? Yes, you can. When I first started at the university, I was still under my parents' health insurance, and that was from the state of Illinois, and I was able to use that here. Since then, I actually turned 26, which is that magic age in America where you are no longer on your parents' insurance. And one thing that was really helpful is the university health services, like they sent out kind of a reminder email when it was enrollment time for Medicaid. And as a grad student, I did qualify for it. And through talking to them, we realized like it would actually be a cheaper option with giving me more range of options and choices than if I were to sign up for just the university health insurance. So something you can look into. I'd be happy to talk to people more about that if insurance is anything that you're looking to navigate. But again, you don't even need health insurance to access the university health services. The only requirement there is that you are currently a student. So currently enrolled, I should say. The other thing that I want to point out is our university health services do offer mental health services, as well as we are affiliated with Wolverine Wellness. So you see this wellness wheel on the screen here. Wolverine Wellness is one of my places of work on campus. They are fantastic. They offer wellness coaching, which is kind of more of an abbreviated form of therapy. We might not go into past experiences or unpacking trauma, but if you're just dealing with a current hardship, it can be a really great resource there. If you do want more of a psychological psychotherapy approach, the counseling and psychological services is a therapeutic service on campus that again is accessible to students and free to students. They have an option pairing with telehealth, so you could sign up for virtual therapy through the You Will program and get 6 free sessions there, which is often a little bit more convenient because the wait times are shorter. Or if you need help to find somebody out in the community, we're always willing to help with people with that. So yeah, those are some of the different options.
All right, so now is the time where we are welcoming you all to ask questions. Before we hop into questions, I'm just going to jump into the last slide quick and then I'll stop sharing, which is, of course, thank you so much. And then if you do have any questions of resources or questions, you can always contact OSS. There's all of their information here. Of course, when you get the slide deck, you will also get all this information again. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Before we totally open the floor, I know there were questions in the chat throughout, and so if there were any that we missed, definitely let us know. One that I just wanted to speak to is the question about off-campus housing in areas that are more affordable than Ann Arbor, but still pretty close to campus where you wouldn't necessarily need to use your car every day. So in the chat, both myself and it looks like another caller, student on the call, so thank you for adding your knowledge about it. We've listed both Ypsilanti and Belleville. One thing that I wanted to add to this is just an understanding for students. Most of the time, you would only have to come onto campus like 2 days out of the week. A lot of times when you're scheduling your classes, they're front loaded to Monday and Tuesday. And that's purposeful in the sense of when you start field placement, you'll still want to have a large chunk of time to be able to offer to field sites. So I've been scheduling my calendar where it's all front loaded on Monday and Tuesday so that I can offer Wednesday through Friday for my field placement. So with that being said, that means that you would only need to get to campus on the days that you have classes. So if that's something that you would prefer to have that convenience of only having to come in twice, you can definitely arrange your schedule in that way. So just wanted to add that bit of context. Oh, and then for the new question, could field placement be way further from Ann Arbor? There are field placement options all over in the state of Michigan, even options outside of the state of Michigan. I would say vast majority of them are in the Metro Detroit area. But that being said, like when you're looking at the options, you do get to filter for what areas you want it to be in. If it's something that you live in Ann Arbor and don't have a car and therefore need it to be something in Ann Arbor that wouldn't require a car, you can even just say that. You will still have sites that you might need to take a bus to, but again, the bus system, we all have free access to it, being a university student, so it is something that's definitely manageable. But yeah, if you're somebody who lives out in, say, Belleville, and you'd prefer to be in a site in Belleville, and maybe it's a site that you can actually walk to from Belleville, then that's very possible.
There was another question added into the chat. So even if you are in classes full time, is it still only 2 days a week? And how soon in advance do you need to look for field placements? So I am a full-time 12-month student. I typically only have classes 2 days a week. Sometimes I make it so it's just one, like one long day, because it works out. So yes, the short answer is yes, it still can only be 2 days, or you can spread it out. I made it so that I had like 2 or 3 classes during the day at the School of Social Work, and then I petitioned to have an online class at night, so I didn't have to be there all day and spend money for parking. And then for field placements, they should be sending you out an email sometime in the fall, if you are a 16 or 20-month student, about whether or not, or about when the timeline is for your field. So they'll give you a list of field placements. You don't really have to look until they give you that link and you can fill out that form. But if you are in advanced standing, your field placement stuff should be finished by now. But if it's not, I'm sure you could reach out to the field office. But I believe that any 16, 20 month, it'll be in the fall when you'll actually start looking.
All right, so there was another question in the chat that says, do you have any suggestions for classes, such as ways of note-taking, how classes run, etc.? I'm not sure how different it'll be from undergrad. So the first thing that I would say is that I felt that like classes, like college classes, they still run very similar to undergrad, but I would say that there is a little bit more freedom in the like discussion that we have, in the way that the class is held, in the way that we as like the students are perceived. I just felt like much more of a grad student in a college class, which was great. As far as like suggestions, I would want to make sure that you have a good laptop. You are going to be doing a lot of typing, so I would recommend investing in a nice laptop. If you aren't able to do that, please know that there are ways that like you can still access computers. There are computers within the School of Social Work, and then there are also computers located around campus that we are able to use as well. But that would be my suggestion, is just making sure that you have like access to a good computer or a nice computer yourself. But Brett and Kaylee, do you have any suggestions?
I personally got an iPad for note taking because lugging around 5 notebooks was difficult for me. So I got an iPad, I got the $10 Good Notes app, and I went on with my day. But I know that's not feasible for everyone. So I definitely did not take a lot of notes. It was mostly for doodling, because I feel like a lot of the classes are discussion based. So it was hard for me to really just take notes, but I got a lot out of them.
I thought of a different one. If you are someone who doesn't like to read a lot, or like gets tired of staring at a computer while reading, something that I really like, this is not sponsored, but Speechify is like a web page or a digital app, a mobile app. That's the word I was looking for. Like a mobile app that you can download onto your phone or onto your computer, where you can actually upload PDFs and they will read them out loud. I originally just had the free version, but eventually I did upgrade to the premium one, which is pricey. So I understand that that is not feasible for everyone, but I do really like it because it makes reading a lot faster, because you can turn the speed up a little bit to where you're comfortable at listening level. Additionally, they have a lot of different voices, and this is something that really sold me on the idea, was like Gwyneth Paltrow reads to me now as I'm sitting and doing my laundry or cooking. Snoop Dogg is another voice that you can have, which is great. And so if you're someone again who does not like reading or like who can't sit and read for extended periods of time, I recommend looking into Speechify because there is a free version as well.
I was starting to type an answer to this question, but I feel like it's going to be easier to just speak towards. So I did not attend Michigan for undergrad and don't really know anyone in Ann Arbor. I was wondering what social events are around to connect with people and make friends. So the first thing I'll highlight is your orientation week, known as Seed Week, does have built-in social events throughout the week. So definitely, encourage you to get out of your comfort zone if you're not somebody who usually likes to attend these events. I tend to love it because I'm very extroverted. So I really enjoyed those events and made connections right away. And it's one of those things where we're all in the same boat, right? So there's that camaraderie, there's that acceptance built in. I was added to a bunch of different group me's in that first week and just kind of navigated it from there of, hey, who wants to go do this? Who wants to go do that? Definitely checking out what's going on in the Ann Arbor area. When you all get here, the downtown Ann Arbor area will still be doing throughout the weekends, closing out the streets, and they'll either have music out on the street or just additional seating for their restaurants. So definitely a nice area to check out. If you are here and it's really warm out, there's a river that runs through campus that's very popular for people to either go kayak or tubing on. So you could arrange a trip to go do that. We also do have in the School of Social Work a student union that has a social committee, so they'll be arranging stuff throughout your semester. So you can either get involved in that or just reach out to them or just, sign up. Actually, I think they always send out emails to the entire student body. So you don't even need to bother signing up. They'll still contact you. And then again, the social events in Ann Arbor, we sent you the events page, but then also just on campus. If you're somebody who enjoys the sporting events, they get kicked off right away in the fall. So you can always find a sporting event to go to. If you're somebody who prefers the arts or also likes the arts, I should say it that way. They are fantastic here. And so there's a thing that I'm going to be looking into called like the Michigan passport of a way to get many tickets to pretty much all the shows just at one time. So looking into that, plenty of activity on this college campus, whether it be school related or just community related. So hopefully that helps start to paint a picture of that. Other advice from Kaylee or Kohler?
You did a great job of explaining it. And I mean, I'll hop in and say like, so I had the privilege of visiting Ann Arbor before I came here. I just visited for like a weekend, and I was just conveniently lucky enough to meet someone who has a few of the same hobbies as I when I first showed up, and then they opened me up to a lot of just different like groups and things that I otherwise probably wouldn't have realized about. And some of them were like, they have gaming club at the public library that you can go play video games. It was shut down for a little bit, but like now I think they have it again. They have a few volleyball leagues around the area that although I didn't get much time to go and do that because of schooling, I was still part of it and it was still very exciting. So yeah, that's like another thing. Check out your local library. That sounds really lame, but like it's a great resource and they have a lot of events going on in Ann Arbor. So yeah.
Libraries are awesome.
I personally made it a point to get a number from every single, like not every single person, from one person in every single class I took, just so that I would have like someone to talk to in that class for that specifically. But also like some of those people I've had in multiple classes, and it really helped out to like just talk about stuff. And sometimes we even just were like, well, what a day it's been. So like that's how I met people. So it's very make it a point to just say hi to someone during seed week or something like that, just so you can have one person that's in your book. And then I just wanted to touch on this question in the chat that Brett answered about in-state tuition. So as a student at the University of Michigan, you cannot receive in-state tuition. I know this, I tried. So you can't, it's just not possible. You would have to have in-state residency before you enrolled in the University of Michigan to be able to qualify for in-state tuition. So take that as you will.
There was another one in the chat that asked, is typing notes necessary? Can we handwrite them? You can use whatever style of note taking that you feel comfortable. I don't like notes, so I don't take them. But yep, you can write them, you can type them, you can put them into an iPad. So that is really up to you. And then the next one, there was are there any cat shelters close to campus? I apologize, I'm just not sure. There may be, and if you were interested in that, I would recommend just looking around the area for like local shelters that allow volunteers. But I'm not sure if there's any walking distance to campus. I tried to do a quick search, but it ended up being a little bit more navigating than what I thought. So the next one, I keep getting emails about orientation week, but I don't really understand what it's supposed to be. What will it be like? I can give a really quick crash course about Seed Week. So Seed Week really is our orientation into the program. It starts with this very exciting / uneventful orientation presentation. If you do have Dr. Deja Price, who is going to be leading orientation, it is a grand time. She is full of energy and she's absolutely fabulous. And then they kind of just break you into different orientation meetings. So that's sometimes meeting with your field faculty, sometimes that's meeting with your pathway. And then I know they might have like specific like special program meetings, but I'm not sure about that. But Brett also threw that information into the web, like the chat. So if you're interested, the links are there as well. There's someone in here in the chat who keeps dishing out this information, and we all appreciate it so much. So thank you so much for doing that.
I'll answer a new question that came in coming from a major city. How reliable is the public transportation system in Ann Arbor? I commented before, I, at this point, have one specific bus route that I've come to just use because it's the one that like gets me to my work very conveniently. And I am very impressed and happy with how consistent that bus shows up on the right time. I know exactly when I need to leave my house in order to catch it, and I've not double checked on an app ever to be like, oh, is it actually on time? Is it not? Like, should I check before I leave my house so I'm not wasting my time? Like, it is like clockwork for that. The thing that I'll say though is, even though that bus happens to be very consistent in its timing, it doesn't have many stops, if that makes sense. So like when I was in a major city, you had many more options for getting around, and you had many more options for like pretty much every single block would have a bus coming to it. Here, that's not the case. The one bus that I do usually take is about a 5 to 6 minute walk from my apartment. So, you know, there's still quite a bit of legwork going on there. And I appreciate the comment of there's even a bus that will take you to Dearborn and Detroit. Yes, absolutely. Oh, and I forgot to mention my favorite form of public transit is Amtrak. There's a Amtrak spot just right north of campus. I take that to get from Ann Arbor to Chicago. It's a quick 4-hour ride. You can take a nap, you can do work, you can get up and have a snack from their cafe, you can watch a movie. It's awesome. So check out the Amtrak, especially if you've never been to Chicago. Makes for a fun weekend.
I was just going to speak. Sorry, guys, if I talk too much. But I work at the hospital and have worked all over campus before deciding to take the plunge into this program. And there's working at the hospital, I can answer a good majority of the insurance questions as we have to deal with specialty insurances. if I could just throw in a few things for you. One, call your insurance company and notify them that you will be, even if it's just temporary residency here, that you'll be here, so that way out with your pharmacy, if you have meds or anything like that, call and see if you can have it at a pharmacy that's like that travels with you. I normally recommend Costco or Sam's Club if you have, because they're kind of all over the country, or Walgreens. CVS is really slow. The buses are great, but call your banks. I know a lot of students, at least for a lot of the med students that we get that come in, you're going to be in Ann Arbor, because they'll think that somebody is in a college town that they're going to cause fraud, and everybody's bank card within like the first 2 weeks gets shut down because they think somebody's out shopping at any of our, famous Ann Arbor stops. Something's happened. So I would definitely call your banks, tell your insurance company, and check your pharmacy stuff. Those are my 3 top ones. Hopefully that's been helpful to other people.
Thank you so much. Yes, that is so helpful. I'm going to be honest and say that when I moved, my credit card, or like my debit card, got locked almost immediately because my bank was like, this is fraud. And I'm like, no, I'm just trying to buy groceries. So thank you so much. And you were not talking too much. You were providing wonderful information. So thank you so much.
No problem. I know a bunch of, I don't want to say useless information, but information I've kind of stored in the back of our mind for all this time. And now I'm like, well, look, I get to share with people. And somebody was asking like how easy it is to make friends in Ann Arbor. I don't think I've been to a city anywhere in the United States, walk down the street and just be standing at the stoplight, and then all of a sudden you have a best friend standing next to you. You're like, oh, I never knew I needed to know you, or vice versa. It's like, that's kind of how Ann Arbor is.
I would definitely agree. Do we have any other questions? Oh, question. Is there a Facebook group for different cohorts and whatnot? I'm not actually sure. I know that there's sometimes been a group chat, but they're never like sent out through the university, because the university, I don't think, regulates the they don't, police or supervise the group chat. So if there is one, it would be created via the students. But if you would be interested in creating them, you can also create them and then share them with your cohorts. So yeah.
I know there was one for our cohort, so I'm trying to just search. Ours was labeled U Michigan MSW class of 2023, so it might be U Michigan MSW class of 2024. And I will look, and if it's correct, I will send that information. But yeah, similar to what Kohler said, it's usually student initiated.
All right. Any other questions? All right. If you do have any questions or any comments, I can always stay after just a tiny bit afterwards to answer anything. But we are going to throw our emails into the chat so that you have them. And then additionally, you will all be receiving this recording, the slides, frequently asked questions, because we dumped a lot of links into this this chat. We'll also then grab the links and put them into a web doc, like a Google Doc, for you all to have access to as well. But that really kind of concludes everything for the night. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Kohler. Quick question for not just you, Kohler, but Brett and Kelly. I could talk, Brett, and I could type today, but are there any other apps like that you guys are using in class that we should kind of like plan to go for? I mean, the Computer Showcase has a lot of cool things that you can purchase, but as you've gone through your 12 months or longer, are there any particular apps that have really stood out for you, or software that you think that would be helpful for us to familiarize ourselves with, or just any kind of extras that you can, maybe not just software, but just any kind of helpful tools and hints, or, you know, don't get the little iPad, get the big one. All those kind of things.
So like I said, Speechify is probably the one that I've used the most, just because I'm a big fan of it.
Yep, I'm downloading that one now. Other ones?
Um,
I will say that in your classes, if there's ever anything like being done as a class activity, I've always had it just be through a website and not through a specific app to download to the phone. One that's a popular website that you'll probably use in multiple classes is a website called Submersion. But when they're having you do those class activities, you'll usually be able to use your University of Michigan sign-in to get free access to that. So kind of going off the question of, did you have to purchase SPSS? I have not had to purchase that. And if you do need to use it for a class for a specific project, you might be able to get access through the University of Michigan account. The University of Michigan has subscriptions to a lot of different programs and websites and places. So I would always recommend trying to log in through your university first. Also, with that being said, I have not yet had to buy a single textbook. Anytime we're using a textbook, it's usually accessible through the Michigan Library through an online version.
I personally have only had downloaded just the Canvas app for one, because that tells me when my grades get posted and I love to see that. And then the Good Notes app, because I like to write my notes in it with my iPad and my Apple Pen. Just because it's easier for me to keep all my notebooks all in one section. So that's what I like to use it for.
I think another one that I maybe would recommend, this isn't one that I used. I guess I used it quite a bit, but this is one that I've had since undergrad. It's just called Tiny Scanner Pro. I don't even know if it's on the market anymore. But what it is, it's just an app that you can scan documents with your phone. Like you just take a picture of it and it turns it into a PDF. That's just something nice to have on your phone. It's not necessarily something that I've used and been like, this is so helpful as an MSW student, but it is something that I've definitely used throughout the year here for like, if I need to sign something and then just quick scan it and send it as a PDF in an email. That's one that is super useful. So.
Okay, for the questions in the chat regarding the email about needing SPSS, to clarify, it is a research tool often used in quantitative research analysis. So I'm not sure exactly the context of this email. If you want to forward it to me, I can definitely do some digging. I have put my email in the chat already, so you can find my email there. If it is necessary for a class, they would talk to you about it during the class. So, and I have yet to be in a class where it's necessary to have that. The only one that I'm thinking for a first semester is 507, which is the Research Basics class, which I did not actually end up taking. So that's why I might not be familiar if it's needed there or not. But I would say as far as needing it for the program overall, not necessary. You might find a situation where you're like, oh, I'm trying to do research in my field placement, and then it would be nice. But I feel like your field placement will normally help you figure out how to acquire it. Either they'll have an application sign in or stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'll hop in and say that, and it just seems like it was put in the chat. So I think I remember which email you are talking about it, because I remember getting it in the fall, and it really was just explaining that, yeah, Microsoft Office is available for free through the university, and then additionally, like SPSS is available cheaper if we were interested in purchasing that and having that as a resource. And then I think it also goes into further depth about using it on Windows computers versus Apple computers. But yeah, I would say that it's not necessary. So I would second that what Brett said. All right, so then there's another one in the chat. I'm just going to throw it out there. Did you say that textbooks are free through the school's library? Yes, some of them, not all of them. So while most of the textbooks are available for free, there are some books that I have had to purchase for classes that, like, if you're interested in taking certain classes, they will require you to purchase those books and to have them. I've still just typically purchased them via like audiobook style, or purchase them in like on Amazon as like a Kindle book, so that I can then access it when I need it via my computer. Do you need your books for the first day of class? That I think is dependent on the that really is dependent on the professor. So if the professor expects you to have things read like prior to the first class, they will typically put that in the syllabus, or they will send you an email with that information. Or just when you have Canvas, check that first module and see what they require you to read. For example, like Deborah Madison is a wonderful professor here, and before the first day of class, she expects us to have the syllabus read and 2 articles read, at least for one of her classes, so that we could kind of just get rolling right away. But not every professor is like that. So it really just kind of depends, and I would stay tuned to your professor.
I'm gonna address a question that's picking up some steam in the chat around the summer book read. Yes, so if you have gotten an email talking about a book that all SSW students are meant to read before the semester starts, it's called My Grandmother's Hands. It is a book that the purpose of is to build community among your incoming class. Other universities model this technique as well. The Summer Bond book reading. During Seed Week, you will have a book discussion around the book. I can say that, you know, if it's something that you don't end up getting to, it will not hurt grades at all. It will not hurt your status in the program. If it's something that's causing you stress, then please do not become more stressed about it. It is meant to be an opportunity to create community, and also create a space where you can begin to have conversations about white supremacy, undoing racism, stuff like that. So that is the goal of the summer book, and hopefully provides a little bit more context of why you have been getting those emails. Again, if you don't get around to it, it will not be the end of the world. The main purpose is essentially like, can you best participate in the book club? So hopefully that helps. And you should only have to read the first part of the book. You're not expected to read the entire book before Seed Week.
Any other questions before I stop the recording?
The item in the chat, there is a book discussion tomorrow. That one's optional. We will be on it. So if you want to see our faces again, definitely stop by. That is we introduced that new this summer as a way to continue to build that community ahead of time. So it is a different discussion than the one that you will have during Seed Week. The one that's tomorrow, you don't even have to have purchased the book yet. We are going to be asking more open-ended questions that do not require familiarity with the book during that time. So feel free to join if you would like. It's on the events page on the school's social work website, or you probably have received emails about it. Again, we did one last week, and it was a really great just community building discussion. A lot of people who joined said that they joined specifically for the purpose of starting to get to know their classmates. It also gives you a sample of what your discussions in classes might look like. You know, these are some of the topics that you will be discussing in classes. So it gives you a little bit of a model for what you can expect. So a little plug for that, but yeah, it's different than what you'll be doing in Seed Week. So it's not going to be a total repetition. That discussion will be tomorrow at the same time, so 6 p.m. I can quickly try to find the event info and put that in the chat.
Brett, if it makes it easier, I think I have it up right now. So
Oh, amazing.
yeah, I'm just gonna try to just copy and paste the.
Yeah, it was not meant to cause any alarm. I promise. We do not require you to read anything. We're not instructors or anything. We just want to build community with you. So come on out if you want to. If you're busy or have anything else going on, no worries.
Oh, you know what, Brett, do they need to do the registration thing?
I think so.
Okay, then
But I've got that pulled up now.
awesome, thank you.
So here is the link to that if you would like to join.
Well, I'm going to stop recording. So thank you all so much.